Summer's calling, and shackshop.us has you covered. Dive into hot sales on ladies' swimsuits, sleek, stylish, and perfect for pool or beach. Stay connected and on trend with smartwatches that track your every move. Explore the depths with underwater drones and reach new heights with our flying drones. Adventure starts here. Hurry, these deals won't last. Shop now at shackshop.us and make this season unforgettable. Shackshop.us, where adventure meets style.
Trump rejects Biden's executive privilege claim as battle over presidential records escalates. A major confrontation over presidential power, transparency, and congressional oversight has erupted in Washington after President Donald Trump declined to support former President Joe Biden's attempt to shield sensitive records from Senate investigators. The decision marks a rare and consequential moment in the ongoing debate about the limits of executive privilege, the long-standing doctrine that allows presidents to keep certain communications confidential. While the privilege is traditionally invoked to protect internal deliberations and national security matters, critics say it has increasingly become a tool used by administrations to delay or block political investigations. Now, with Republicans pressing forward on several inquiries into Biden's presidency and his family's business dealings, Trump's White House has taken the extraordinary step of refusing to defend Biden's claim to secrecy. The move opens the door for Senate investigators to gain access to potentially significant documents held by the National Archives and Records Administration, setting the stage for a legal and political clash that could reverberate for years. A letter that sparked a new political fight. The dispute burst into public view after White House counsel David Warrington sent a letter to the National Archives directing the agency to release documents requested by congressional investigators. In the letter, Warrington wrote that Trump had determined that upholding Biden's executive privilege claim would not serve the country's broader interests. According to the letter, the former president had asserted executive privilege over a range of records that Senate committees had requested as part of ongoing investigations. Warrington explained that after reviewing the circumstances surrounding the requests, the Trump administration concluded the privilege claim lacked sufficient justification. The White House position was clear: the requested document should be turned over to Congress. The directive effectively overrides Biden's attempt to block the disclosure of materials tied to multiple Senate inquiries, including probes into his administration's decision-making and concerns raised by Republican lawmakers about potential abuses of power. While former presidents sometimes assert executive privilege over documents after leaving office, the final authority typically rests with the sitting president. In this case, Trump's decision means Biden's claim will not be defended by the executive branch. Understanding executive privilege. Executive privilege has been part of American government practice for more than 2 centuries, even though the concept is not explicitly written into the Constitution. Presidents from George Washington onward have asserted some form of the privilege to keep sensitive communications within the executive branch confidential. Supporters argue the protection is essential because it allows presidents and their advisors to speak candidly without fear that private discussions will later become public. Opponents, however, warn that the privilege can be abused to conceal wrongdoing or avoid accountability. Over time, courts have generally recognized executive privilege as legitimate but limited. One of the most famous legal precedents came during the Watergate scandal, when the Supreme Court ruled that President Richard Nixon could not use executive privilege to block the release of tapes sought in a criminal investigation. That ruling established a key principle: executive privilege is not absolute. In situations where Congress or the courts have a strong need for evidence, the privilege may give way. The current clash involving Biden's records is testing those boundaries once again. Senate investigations driving the dispute. The documents at the center of the controversy were requested by several Senate committees that have been conducting oversight investigations into different aspects of Biden's presidency. Republican lawmakers have argued that Congress has a constitutional responsibility to examine possible misconduct within the executive branch. Their investigations cover a wide range of issues, including allegations that officials attempted to hide signs of Biden's declining mental sharpness while he was in office. Other probes focus on whether federal agencies were used to pursue politically motivated investigations against Trump and his allies during the Biden administration. Still another line of inquiry centers on the financial activities of Biden's family members, particularly his son Hunter Biden, whose international business dealings have been scrutinized for years. The committees involved in the document requests include the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Each committee has issued letters requesting specific categories of presidential records. Those requests triggered Biden's executive privilege claim and ultimately Trump's decision to reject it. The role of the National Archives. At the heart of the dispute is the National Archives and Records Administration, the federal agency responsible for preserving presidential records. Under the Presidential Records Act, documents generated during a president's time in office are considered public property, although certain restrictions apply. Former presidents can request that sensitive materials remain confidential for a period of time. However, Congress has the authority to request access to those records as part of legitimate oversight activities. When such requests occur, the National Archives typically notifies both the former president and the sitting president. If the former president asserts executive privilege, the sitting president must decide whether to support that claim. In this case, Biden attempted to invoke the privilege, but Trump declined to back the request. That decision clears the way for the National Archives to release the documents unless a court intervenes. A decision framed as transparency. The Trump administration framed its decision as a defense of government transparency and congressional oversight.
In Warrington's letter, the White House argued that executive privilege should not be used to prevent Congress from investigating potential misconduct. The letter emphasized that lawmakers have a constitutional duty to oversee the executive branch and ensure that presidential power is not abused. According to the administration's reasoning, withholding the requested documents would undermine that oversight responsibility. By instructing the National Archives to comply with the Senate's requests, the White House signaled its willingness to allow the investigations to proceed without executive branch interference. Supporters of the decision say it represents a commitment to accountability. Critics, however, argue that the move could weaken the protections future presidents rely on when making sensitive decisions. Biden's response to the controversy. Biden has consistently rejected allegations that his administration engaged in wrongdoing. During previous public statements, he insisted that decisions made during his presidency were his own. He has also dismissed claims that official documents were signed without his direct involvement. The former president has said suggestions that he was unaware of actions taken in his administration are unfounded. Nevertheless, Republican lawmakers say the investigations must continue. They argue that the American public deserves answers about the issues raised during Biden's presidency. With Trump declining to defend the privilege claim, those investigations may now gain access to new evidence.